Hi, everyone. My name is Shinia, otherwise known as Shy, and I am half of Jackson Todd Lambert, PLLC. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to watch part one of this video series where my business partner, Ebony, covered not only what an LLC is, but she covered the first four questions you might want to ask yourself to determine if an LLC is the right business structure for you. Today, I'm going to cover four more questions to help you make that decision. Now, I have to get the legal stuff out of the way. Ebony and I are attorneys, but what we share here is not intended to substitute legal advice from an attorney who knows the relevant facts of your situation. You should never take the opinions and information expressed here as law, but you should be encouraged to learn more from a competent legal professional. Now, if you find this information valuable and would like to consult with us regarding your specific business needs, you can find our information in the description box below. So again, Ebony has already covered questions 1 through 4 in part one. Today we'll begin with question number 5. So question number 5 that you should ask yourself if you're trying to determine if an LLC is the right fit for you is this: what type of taxation is best for both you, your investors, and your company? Now, this question will probably have the longest answer out of all four that I cover. Make sure to have something handy to jot down some notes, as this is one of the most frequently asked questions and often a topic that people find most confusing when trying to decide whether an LLC is the right fit for them. So, when we're going to talk about taxation, let's talk about this on two levels. So, first is the federal level. IRS recognizes sole proprietorships, partnerships, and corporations. That's it. Three types for tax purposes: sole proprietorships, partnerships, and corporations. But states on their level have authorized what we refer to as a limited liability company or an LLC as an alternative structure for doing business. But since the IRS does not recognize LLCs for tax purposes, the company, the LLC, can choose to be taxed as one of the structures that the IRS does recognize. So an LLC can choose to be taxed as a sole proprietorship, a partnership, or a corporation. Let's break that down a little bit further. The owner of an LLC is referred to as a member. So if an LLC has one owner, one member, it is known as a single member LLC. So by default, a single member LLC is going to be referred to by the IRS as a disregarded entity and will be taxed again by default as a sole proprietorship. So if you form your LLC within your state, the IRS is automatically going to tax you as a sole proprietorship if you are a single member LLC without you doing anything. That's by default. By default, a multi member LLC, an LLC with multiple owners, will be taxed by the IRS as a partnership. Again, by default, that multi member LLC is formed and no additional steps are taken as far as tax election status, you will be taxed as a partnership. LLCs, whether single member or multi-member, are classified as pass-through entities for tax reasons, meaning that the business profits and the losses are going to flow through the personal tax return of each member unless the LLC elects to be taxed as a corporation. If an LLC does not want to be taxed as a sole proprietor or a partnership, it can elect to be taxed as either an S Corp or a C Corp. To make that decision, you probably want to know what's the difference between the four. What taxes does an LLC pay depending on its entity structure? Great question. First is the sole proprietorship. So taxes that are incurred by the LLC are passed on, otherwise known as pass-through taxation, to the owner's personal tax requirements. The LLC activities are reported by the owner on Schedule C of their personal tax return. Pretty simple. For a partnership, it's very similar. If the LLC has more than one member by default, it's going to be taxed as a partnership. Similar to taxation as a sole proprietorship, the taxes incurred by a multi-member LLC will also pass directly through to those partners in the business. This means all owners would handle their business-related taxes on their personal returns, and they will be taxed on the LLC's profits and losses. So what about the S Corp and the C Corp? Well, starting with the S Corp, for tax purposes, businesses can choose to be classified as corporations. If the members have elected to structure an LLC and want it to be taxed as an S Corp, all taxes resulting from the business activities are passed through, just like with a sole proprietor in a partnership, to the personal tax obligations of an LLC's owners. So you may be thinking, well, Shy, what's the point? Why would I elect S Corp if it's just going to be passed through like a sole proprietorship or partnership? You're so smart. The difference here, friend, is that the corporation does not have to pay federal taxes on profits. This means that the S corporation owners can report the profits and losses of the LLC on their personal tax returns and not incur double taxation. And if you are accruing a lot of income, this can be huge. Now, what about the last but not least, the C Corp? The C Corp tends to be shied away from when it comes to tax elect purposes because it is complex to structure your LLC as a C Corp for tax purposes, but it does have some advantages. When the LLC is taxed as a C Corp, it means that the LLC is taxed directly as a separate business entity. Unlike taxation as a partnership or a sole proprietorship, the taxes incurred by the business are not passed through to the owner's personal taxes. This structure separates the owner's personal and business assets and also allows businesses to take advantage of some major deductions. However, the biggest disadvantage of an LLC that's being taxed as a C Corp is the double taxation. Unlike a pass-through entity, an LLC with C Corp tax classification is taxed at the corporate and personal level. The LLC must file an income tax return with the IRS for the business while also doing so for their personal income taxes. So, as you've heard, making a decision about your business structure is extremely important. If you're still unsure, be sure to comment below and we'd be happy to answer your questions. And when you're ready to make that decision, we recommend you consulting with a business attorney and a tax professional who are familiar with the pros and cons of these different types of entity structures. I'm going to answer questions 6 and 7 together because their analysis is pretty similar. Question 6 is, are you in more than one industry? Meaning, do you own multiple businesses? 7, do you have lots of different types of business assets? So do you own multiple businesses and do you have lots of business assets? If you own multiple businesses with assets belonging to each individually, having an LLC just makes sense. If you have a significant number of assets, you want to make sure that you protect your personal from your business, which is the primary benefit of an LLC, the liability protection it affords. What does that mean and what does that look like? If you're not familiar with the liability protection that comes with an LLC, if God forbid, you were performing your regular business duties and your delivery driver got into an accident and crashed into, a mom driving her kids to school and she were to sue the company, the range that she would be able to attach, the things that she would be able to ask for in payment for her damages, etc., would only extend to your business assets versus her being able to come and attack your personal assets, your bank accounts, your home, your cars, etc. LLCs are perfect for providing that limited liability protection. And if you're interested in a video on how to make sure your limited liability protection is airtight, comment below and let us know, and we'd be happy to do a video to cover that as well. However, another factor to consider when deciding, again, whether the LLC structure is best for you and you're debating because you have multiple businesses and or you may have multiple assets, is to consider the size and income potential of your business. If you bake cookies from home, once a year, you sell them at the local Christmas fair or farmers market, the cost and requirements of an LLC may not be worth it for you. But if you acquire an industrial kitchen with hundreds of $1,000s of equipment, delivery vans, etc., and your income is the same or more than what you would earn as an average salary today, considering an LLC would be much more reasonable. I suggest that you do so. And question number 8, last but not least, what do you plan to do with the money earned by your business? Now, this may seem like a silly question. Most people would say, pay bills. But really think about this. This is an interesting question. If you are operating your business with the intent to use that money earned to support another cause, Why not consider forming a nonprofit corporation instead? For example, if you desire to create interesting and graphic t-shirts and you intend to use the income that you make from those sales to feed the homeless, instead of forming an LLC, just consider forming a nonprofit organization from the start. This is why evaluating what's best for you is so important. Your motives, your intentions, and desired outcomes all play a role in making these decisions. And while there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer, there is one that's best for you that will motivate you to move forward to your success. Most small and medium sized entities would benefit from an LLC. However, there are reasons when you may want to consider another entity structure, depending on how you answer the questions presented in these two videos. The best advice we can give you is to consult with an attorney on whether a certain business structure is best for you. Now, if you found this information helpful, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to ask that you even go one step further and share this video with another entrepreneur who could use a little help. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.